Hello.
Good morning.
So Marin won't be able to join. He asked me to drive the demo. Unfortunately, I don't think we have anything in the agenda to demo. I would like to take an opportunity just to go through the epic to see whether everything in the epic absolutely needs to get done before we go to production for project export, and if there's anything that we're missing. Scarbeck, maybe you can talk a little bit about your work for the deployment stuff that you've been doing. I can talk a little bit about the logging and even demonstrate it, though there isn't a whole lot to show. Is there anything you'd like to see, or anyone here would like to see demoed?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think really not much has changed as far as demoable things since the last demo. Like we did the load test last week. Taking a look to see if there's anything that we wanted to. We probably, yeah, I guess we didn't really set goals, so maybe we should do that this time. Okay, I'm going to start off by sharing my screen, and let's go through the epic. So one of the new items here is to customize the Fluentd daemon for cloud logging. I don't think this is something we absolutely need to do for project export. What it means, though, is that when we do get logging working, which is what I'm working on now, is that we won't have these extra labels in the log lines or in the log messages, like environment, tier, type, the things that we added recently. These are added by Fluentd config. I kind of put it in here because I'd like to spend a little bit of time seeing how difficult it is to create the daemon set and for Fluentd. But I don't think this is like a hard requirement for us.
Jeff, I would say that it was super nice to have it, but we had techniques before that we could use.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah, they weren't nice techniques, but they weren't like, I don't think it should be a showstopper on the whole project.
Yeah, it's not. The only part that's a showstopper are secret redaction that happens in the Fluentd config, but I don't think there's any secret redaction that needs to happen for sidekiq. Export,
So
at least for project export.
Like the general consensus is that the application should, like if it's something that's being emitted by the application, it should have the secrets redacted before, because obviously not everyone's using Fluentd. But I don't know what other sources there are there. Like certainly HA proxy, I'm guessing.
It's not just HA proxy; it's also Nginx.
Well, yeah,
because
Nginx.
Because we don't really, personal access tokens passed in as query strings. The application can't do anything about that, so we have to redact them. But that's not a problem here. I don't know if there are any other things that we need to worry about. It would be nice if we had a more standard like string for personal access tokens that we could have a more global match for.
I've proposed that in the past, like basically starting it with like $, and and then they're super easy to spot. There's an open issue somewhere, but
yeah.
Obviously, the problem is there's all the old ones, right?
Yeah, you can't like kill people, and yeah, the default is they're valid forever. So yeah, there's probably not much we can do there. That's a shame. Anyway, okay. In that case, I think I'm going to remove this from the epic. I don't see a reason to keep it. The secrets. Single source of truth between Chef and Kubernetes. I think this is a hard requirement. Scarbeck, could you kind of just give a quick update on, high-level update on where this is and if all of these issues need to be here?
All of these issues do need to be here. They're just the stepping stones necessary to make it work.
Yeah.
Graham has stepped in and has been providing some work on this, which is super helpful since I'm concentrating on an RCA currently. But we've got the necessary bits inside of our tooling such that it's available to us. And Graham is currently working on a merge request for adding the secrets in a manual fashion using Helm file to our clusters. He's got a merge request that's open and currently in review currently. I'm working on the automation piece, which unfortunately calls the RCA that I'm working on, that will automate the necessary stuff to make Helm file usable inside of K-control, our current script that we use in CI. I think next week, Graham will pick up the work to do the non-secret configurations. That will ensure that we keep configurations between Chef and Kubernetes similar. And then lastly, it's just the documentation around this entire process. So
Do
work in progress.
you think we can demo this next Friday?
We should have, hopefully we minimally have the ability to show off how the secrets get populated in a demoable state. Maybe not the configuration, maybe not the automation portion of it, but hopefully minimally the secrets portion. So yes, let's add that to the demo next week. We'll make that one of the goals.
Great. Next is console, and this is a big one. Maybe Andrew or Sean, maybe you guys would know whether, is it a problem for GitLab export if we don't have database read replicas configured on the application? I assume Project Export probably doesn't hit the database that hard. And the issue here is that for GitLab.com, for database load balancing, application database load balancing, we use a console DNS. We use console DNS to get the list of hosts, and there's like 8 or so replicas. We don't have console agent currently running. It's not yet supported by the chart. It's a bit tricky because we would need to, we would probably need to update the chart to install console agent and then be able to query it from all the pods. What do you think?
Do you not need, so there's a few things to sort of unwind there. The first one is Project Export does use the database quite a lot, surely, because if you've got like a lot of merge requests, for example, it's going to be iterating through them. But I don't think any of this, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that all sidekiq access was through the primary. Or is that not
I wasn't
correct?
actually 100% sure about that. I thought we used the replicas as well, but I don't know.
I thought the same. I thought, so I'm just trying to check. I thought sidekiq always used the primary, and it was only web requests that could use the second, or I guess API requests that could use the secondaries. Let me go try and check.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But why, is that just because Sidekiq doesn't have that capability? It's not using, because our load balancing is
Because
custom?
most sidekiq jobs write to the database, I think.
Yeah.
So
But-
it was just like, yeah.
But I assume most Sidekiq jobs are doing more reads than writes, and it would put load. It would
It's always
reduce
something I've
load.
wanted to query a little bit, the logic behind it, but I know it has been something. I mean, it'll be good for you in this case,
it says, right? The documentation actually says load balancing is not enabled for sidekiq, as this would lead to consistency problems, and sidekiq mostly performs writes anyway. So the way, as I remember, the way it works for web requests is that as soon as the web request performs a write, then it sticks to the primary. It switches to the primary and starts using the primary. So for sidekiq, it would only save you time. It would only save you the reads that happen before a write. And in the project export case, I think there probably is a write in there somewhere. But if there were no reads,
Probably.
Isn't it the upload that is recorded?
Oh yeah, because it has to put the file somewhere and then tell people where the file is. So it probably doesn't make any difference whether or not you can see the secondaries, I guess, from that.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So it sounds like we can punt this.
Yeah, the second question I have about it, Job, is like, if that wasn't the case, you don't have to have console agent running like sidecar. You could go out to somewhere else and query, right? It doesn't have to be inside the cluster, is kind of my question.
It doesn't need to be inside. It just needs to be something we can address from within the pod.
Console expose as a database interface, so you can just point this as a DNS server, and you get the address.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of beside the point now, luckily. But this might come up in for the next thing we do.
Yeah, I think we have to decide where we want to run it and run the agent. And
it feels a bit weird running a console. I don't know if this is accepted or not, but it sort of feels a bit weird running console inside Kubernetes. Like, aren't they there's quite a lot of overlap between the two?
You're talking about the agent or the server?
Sort of like, both to some degree.
Both?
But I mean, specifically the agent.
Yeah.
Because, like the thing is, one of the things that Kubernetes will provide you with is some sort of service discovery. And I get it's like helps during a transition, but
yeah, I don't know what we'll decide there, but I think in the end, though, we don't want to configure these replicas in two places. So if console's the canonical source of truth for this, then we should use it. But I don't know where we'll land. Okay, I'm going to remove that from the epic then. One less issue. Enable JSON logging for sidekiq. This is done in a chart. We're just waiting to get a chart release, but there's not any more work to do there. Sidekiq logs for the GK pods are entering into a new index. This is the work in progress I'm doing to move the way that we do logging to stop sending logs directly to pub subtopics, but instead send them through Stackdriver, which will then go through log syncs to pub sub. This is enabled right now on staging, kind of validating it, and hopefully everything will go well and we'll go to production. Database configuration audit. I picked this up. I think there isn't a whole lot more that we need to do here. I think when Scarbeck was looking at this, we decided there wasn't really much to do for prepared statements. Load balancing, we have an issue for. SSL compression, we have an issue for. And then we need to set the statement limit. So here, this was just a comparison of what we have set in the VM configuration for the database versus what was set in the pod. You can see statement limit is set to 1,000 in the VM, and in the pod, I thought I had it written here as well, but I guess I don't. But anyway, it's not configurable, I think. So this is something that we need to fix. Load test sidekiq in Kubernetes for project export. This was the demo last week. I think there were some extra things that we wanted to do here, but overall it's looking okay. We need to do some additional testing, I think, once we go to staging, or once we have this enabled in staging. And then create the production deployment. That we'll finish when we're finished with staging. So I think what's missing here, Scarbeck, is the epic for doing the deployment stuff, right? We should probably have that epic here. What is the epic number for that?
It's epic 125. I tried to add it, but it won't. I can't find it.
Is it not an infra epic?
Yeah, it's GL infra.
125?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
Are you sure it's?
Why? So it's clearly there.
Yeah, no, I believe you now. Right?
You should definitely report that.
I wonder what's going on now. It's really strange.
Just open up your network inspector and just see what.
Can you try without the dash in the URL? I wonder if it's because of that routing. Oh no, that wasn't changed recently. Sorry, it was merge request. Never mind. That wouldn't apply.
Yeah, maybe you can try with the short form of just at 125.
Yeah.
Just just like
Or
ampersand 125.
just 125.
Ampersand.
Ampersand, ampersand before.
Oh, oh. That's
so
interesting.
it's definitely returning a 404. We could go
Yeah.
look at the request and the logs and everything, but
Yeah. So
looks like an application bug of some sort. Yeah, it was a post to that. So it was
oh, it was a
that's
post.
the thing
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah. That is really strange.
Something broken there.
No epic found for the given params.
Let's create an issue. We can handle
Look at the
that.
params, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It looks correct.
It looks
Yeah,
good.
I think this is definitely on the application
Uh,
on the back end.
But I could speak to this epic overall. Currently, I'm trying to work on adding the capabilities such that release tools is able to pull all of the necessary component versions and send it off to CNG for building via a commit and followed up by a tag. And we also need to still create the unstable location where the Helm repository will live. And then we'll also, after that, start sending the same tag to Helm. That way it builds something. And then we could modify deployer to deploy our unstable Helm chart. Progress on this is a tad bit slow, but it is in progress. And we kind of want this before we go to production. That way we don't have deployment discrepancies between Kubernetes and our omnibus installs.
right.
Is it possible that it doesn't work because of the ancestor of the second?
That's what I'm wondering too.
Because I saw that on the sidebar that this is a child epic of GitHub.com on Kubernetes. Yeah, on the sidebar, right on the right one. There is below the labels list.
Yeah, this right here.
Yeah, and I think this might be the problem.
Interesting.
Maybe it's already child of something else, and you cannot cross mix the.
You can't have more than one parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense because interesting. We could test it out, I guess, by removing the relationship, but that's not intuitive.
No,
The error should be.
Yeah. Huh. This epic here, Scarbeck, can we just collapse it? Does this need to be its own epic? Because there's only one issue in it.
There's only one issue in there currently because it was just stood up quickly. More triage work may need to be needed to determine what else needs to be done with deployer, which may create more issues outside of this.
Okay.
We could adjust later. I don't think we need to handle that now, though. We need to get the work necessary to get auto deploy working before we get a chance to touch deployer anyways.
Okay. Do you think there'll be anything we can demo for Friday for this? Or not?
I don't think so, based on how slow work is progressing currently. But if I can, I'll try to get something demoable if possible.
What conceivably would be the first thing we would demo?
Probably just release tools, creating the necessary tags, but I don't consider that really demoable, honestly. Because that's just watching chat ops do its thing, which is kind of boring.
Sure. Cool.
shall we try to, will there be anything demoable related to logs, perhaps?
Like hopefully either they'll be done today, latest on Monday, and then we can just demo that the logs are working, or or they won't be working and we'll have, yeah, I'm not sure what, but yeah, we can demo logs. I mean, basically it's sort of just showing that the logs are going to the appropriate index in Elasticsearch. So we can add that to the list. Were there any, I noticed that we didn't add any notes for the load testing demo last week. Was there anything, Skarbek, that you remember that we wanted to demo a bit more?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. I think one of the things we need to decide is whether running a min pod of one is going to be right for production, right? Or whether we want to keep some pods warm. And we also wanted to fix the start time of the pod to make it a little bit shorter. So we should probably have something to track that, specifically the dependency in the pod.
There's an issue for your ladder statement already in the Helm charts issue tracker for that.
Okay. Maybe we can add that to the. We obviously can't add it to the epic, but add it to the chart issues.
I think it's
Or is
probably
it
not
already
linked
there?
in this one, but it might be linked in the other epic that supersedes this one probably. But yeah, we could do that.
Let's put it here because I think it's something we probably want to do before project export goes to production if we can.
I agree. Well, I mean, I agree, but we could also just set an HPA to have a min and max of the same count, and then we don't have to worry about scaling for the project exporter pods at all until that gets fixed potentially.
Yeah. Cool. So one thing that's interesting with regard to logging is that the way that we run sidekiq on the VMs is we have separate log files for all the different log types, and we handle them separately. When we run sidekiq in a pod, all the logs are jumbled together. So we have both the sidekiq logs, the sidekiq exporter log, and the. Go ahead.
Sorry, Karen.
So we have the sidekiq exporter log and we have the production log all jumbled together. So some is structured, some is JSON, some isn't. And I think this makes it kind of, well, I guess it's just not as nice because you kind of want everything to be structured. I think for the logs that aren't structured, I have to see, but I think we're just wrapping them in JSON anyway, so it's probably okay.
How many unstructured logs are coming out of the? It's just the like standard error and stuff like that, presumably.
So what we have is when we have the sidekiq standard out, which is JSON. If you configure sidekiq for JSON, then that's JSON. You have the sidekiq exporter log, which we don't send to central logging at all right now, but that's also on the output of the pod, and that's not structured. And then we have the production log, and this is any place in Rails where you have like just rails.logger, where you're not using, and we still have a few places where that's the case, and so you see some of that as well.
So, and all of those, are they going to standard out at the moment, not to standard error? They're all on the same stream.
It's all in the same stream, because the way that we run sidekiq in the pod is that we run sidekiq and then we tail all the logs in var log GitLab star. Right? So anything that's being logged to that directory is mixed together.
Could we do something clever with tail there, where we only do the structured logs, and then we create like things about moving? So there's kind of there's a related thing which is worth bringing up at this point. And obviously for Workhorse, for Giddily, and the Go services, we generally have a single log that gets used for everything, for access logging, and for like, hey, this took a long time to acquire this lock, and all the different events are in the same log. For Rails, we've seemed to have gone down a strategy where like every different type of event has got its own log. And it kind of feels like that, like, I don't know if people get value out of it. Like, I definitely don't find it super helpful. But I don't know if like the support teams like really prefer it that way, for example. And I wonder if there's like a bigger story about like, all of our structured logs should go into the same log file, and we sort of move away from this like dozen different log files approach that we've been doing.
For that, I think we also have a question of like, what's our like guarantee with our schema for our structured logs, right? Like if we want to remove a field, add a field, like what are we providing
like,
there? You can
never, I think you should never sort of, it's basically what's emitted. Because otherwise it makes things really hard, right? Like obviously some things move slower than others, like the access logs. But even with those, the Workhorse ones, we renamed a whole bunch of fields recently, and it wasn't very disruptive. And we certainly didn't get like a lot of feedback from customers saying like, oh, you know, everything's, or as far as I know.
No, that's useful, because I wanted to rename some of the fields to include the units at the end, because we have like,
yes, that was what I did
have
with
seconds and milliseconds, and it's confusing.
That was what I did last time, and I kind of put it in, and no one challenged me on the fact that we were changing the schema, and I kind of wanted to see, and it seemed to be totally fine. Like none of our stuff broke. We didn't get a lot of feedback, as far as I know, from customers about it. And I think we should definitely say, like, this is not something that has a schema.
So here's a quick example. This is a quick example on my screen. It shows so you have the JSON log from sidekiq here, and then this is actually coming from the production log, which is the...
Yeah, and that's not something we explicitly log. I'm sure you can probably turn it off though.
Yeah, so this is coming from, I think, just Rails log, like this is just
it's because
custom, So go ahead.
It doesn't matter. It's just Rails doing that automatically because we've overridden something, and it's just being verbose about that.
But even when you do a project export, you see you see log messages in the production log. I can do one real quick if you want to see. And the question is like, what to do with that log?
So you said you invoke a tail -f on like file GitLab star or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Could we have a tool that was like log this pod log, and you give it a bunch of stuff, and things that are structured JSON, it puts it out like in structured JSON. And things that are like the files that are not, it puts in there, you know, like it injects the times, it turns it into JSON, injects a timestamp, injects the file name, blah, 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 blah. It would be a super small binary. Yeah, like we could make it in Ruby. I mean, it'd probably be better to write it in Go maybe, but
anything that's not JSON, just wrap it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it would be a very simple tool to write. And I think it'd be like kind of easy way to handle this.
Here's an example of an export that I just did. So you see this like nice JSON log here, and then you have some crap here that you don't care about. Then you have like this saved project export. This is coming from production.log. So it tells me that it's, you know, saving the tar file on disk. And then it says, okay, successfully exported. And then you have more like, and then this is for the mail, you know, so that's cute. So that's good to know. And then you have this sidekiq log here. So like, I would say all of this is kind of important, you know, like it's good to see.
Yeah. We have, to be fair, we have got away without dealing with that stuff this far.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know,
I think Andrew's idea is reasonable, but the other option is just like throw away everything that we don't. So like, you know, the mail's queued, the scoped order is ignored, whatever that means, and then the save project export like is just forced to be in a JSON format somehow because like we're manually like putting that in somewhere, so we can do that. I think they're both reasonable options. I'm just suggesting that as an alternative because these creating scope messages, I don't care about them. If we need to know about them, we can load the app locally. Like, you know, we don't need them in production. Like they're not.
What is that logged as a warning, Sean? Or what, like why are we seeing that?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's vanishingly unlikely that they're going to be different in production in someone's local environment. And I can't think of an issue that would be caused by these. So. Yeah, I think either wrap it all in JSON, like Andrew said, or replace it so that like we just ignore non-JSON and we make it so that anything that's manually logged from the app has to be in JSON format.
Yeah, it's also
assuming
really,
that that's what's set in the configuration, of course.
Yeah, it's also really shitty. These don't have any timestamps either. So
Yeah.
you'd probably wrap it and add a timestamp or something.
So would that be part of the? So sorry, ask your question, Sean.
Yeah, they should have timestamps.
They don't.
But I'm not sure at what stage they get added. So that's not very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Like I would be very surprised if there wasn't actually a little binary that does exactly this, and so we should look out for that. You know, that does the like a little Rust binary or something like that. But then the second thing is, if we did that, that would be part of Helm, right, or part of CNG, right?
Yeah, it would be part of CNG.
Okay.
Let me see whether these logs are being forwarded to Stackdriver, and I think Stackdriver just wraps them anyway. So let me look into that to see.
The other thing is that actually gives us a reasonable answer to the question of secrets, because we can do the deduction if we wanted.
Really?
In that binary.
I guess we could. I didn't even think of it, but sure.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's like maybe.
John,
yeah.
wasn't there something to wrap all of the Rails logs, which these messages in the middle are? Wasn't there already something to wrap that in JSON? I seem to vaguely remember that. Yeah, that's done already.
I mean, if we had no unstructured logs, I'd be super happy. What's happening with the Rails console, the Rails logs? Are those getting shipped as well?
When you say the Rails log,
the
which
super
log?
verbose, like rendering view, like, you know, the ones that are indented.
I think that's production.log. I think that's what we're looking at here.
Right. Okay. So it is the same.
Yeah, these are the ones that don't have timestamps. It's just this bare Rails logger that we use. It's still in the code base.
Yeah.
I'll try to find these right now in Stackdriver to see what they look like. So,
Finding something in Stackdriver.
Yeah, that's
Good
always
luck with that.
Exactly, right?
I'm guessing this won't be publishable now.
It's pre-prod. There's no customer
Okay,
info
right.
here, so
Okay.
it's
Cool.
probably
Yeah, that's totally fine.
okay. Resource labels, cluster name.
It's funny, I'm Googling and I just found an article about how to do this by one Priyanka Sharma.
Oh, really?
Obviously from pre-GitLab days.
So, so do we have this saved? So yeah, so I guess like Stackdriver is doing the right thing here. You can see like this is the unstructured log, and it just wraps it in this text payload. And then hopefully this is being forwarded to PubSub, and then PubSub is, you know, the PubSub beat is then sending this to Elasticsearch. What does it do for time though? It just uses, I guess, the timestamp that it was received in, that it was received. Yeah. And then we have, and then this is the sidekiq log here, which has all the nice fields for sidekiq because it's structured. So maybe there's nothing here that we need to change. Like it's, if everything goes to Stackdriver takes care of wrapping it, and it goes to Elasticsearch, then we'll have a mix.
Cool. That makes it easy.
Yeah. Okay, Scarbeck, we successfully demoed something.
Do we already have the PubSub and syncs configured to send sidekiq to the proper index in the pre-environment?
Yeah, and I can show you that right here. You can see all of these syncs right now.
Yeah.
So for every PubSub topic, we have a sync. And if I look at like one of these filters, it just does it based on the log name. For example, for Rails, it's this, and then what we actually have for the log name is like Rails.api, Rails. You know, whatever. But this search captures all of that. And yeah, so it goes to the topic, and then it goes over to Elasticsearch in theory. It seems to be working for pre-prod. I just enabled it for staging. It's not working yet because I had to recreate all of the index mappings because our time field changed from time to timestamp, because that's what Stackdriver uses. Hopefully it's all going to work. If it does, then we'll make this change on production as well, and we'll stop shipping logs directly to the topics.
So the export that you just did, we should be able to see that in Kibana, right?
I would say, in theory, yes. Let's see. They have to use the new Kibana, which is like, I don't know what these icons are, so I always have to do this extra click to. I just really hate the new Kibana.
I gave them a lot of feedback the other day, and they've asked for more. So I think they're very responsive.
Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah.
I know. But it was good.
Yeah. So nothing for sidekiq here. Let's take a look at the index mapping for the index pattern. We want sub sidekiq pre. So the field is right. Let's try refreshing it. That's the field there. Nothing. Sidekiq pre. So I'll have to see whether these logs are definitely going. The way I usually troubleshoot this is that I stop the pub/sub beat, and then I query the topic to see if the logs are actually going there. And if they look like they're going there, then I can run the beat with debug in the foreground with extra logging to kind of see it pick the message off of the beat and forward it to Elasticsearch. So I'll have to troubleshoot this a bit more. Cool. I think that's all I have. Scarbeck, do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else. Anyone have any questions?
Cool. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Talk to you
Jared.
later. Ciao.
Have a great weekend.